Welcome. This is a Film Inquiry Roundtable number 11. Almost messed that up. My name is Kristy Strouse. I'm the editor-in-chief of filminquiry.com. Also co-host of Blind Spots podcast with Jake here. And today we are talking about movies, our favorite movies that are based on true stories. Sometimes more closely than others. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun. First, let's just say hi to everybody. And it is a smaller group, but it's a cool group. So I'm very happy with that. So yeah, Jake, say hi.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jake here, also known as Jake Tropila, writer, editor at Film Inquiry. Small group, but I think quality over quantity. We had some good contenders tonight. So yeah, I'm excited to talk movies based on true stories. I'm going to throw it over to Emily, joining us after some absence. How you doing, Emily?
I'm doing good, Jake. Yeah, it's been a little bit, but I'm making my return. As Jake said, I am Emily. Been on a few of these. Maybe you've seen me before. Probably not, because I missed most of them. But I've been writing with Film Inquiry for several years now. So definitely excited to talk to everybody about stuff that's based on true stories, even if it's really loosely based on true stories.
Exactly.
Most of them. And I'm Bailey, Bailey Joe. I am an editor with Film Inquiry, and I think it's coming up on the year since I applied to join the website. So feeling good, feeling great.
Nice.
And yeah, I don't know what number this is. This is my second one wearing a hat, so that's important.
Good way to remember it, I think.
There you go. This is probably like 4 or 5 for you, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. You've been on quite a few of the last 4 or 5, so yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Time is weird.
Super fans, let us know in the comments below
Yeah.
who's been in what.
It's definitely the first time Bailey and I have both been on. We're sure of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Which means that this is a great one.
Yeah.
Something I remember because I think just Maria was the only other female that's been on here, right, Jake?
I think so, and I wasn't even on that one.
Right, because that one we tried to cater to UK time more, even though we have had some jump on at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a trooper.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, Miss Musana definitely stayed up late for one, and so
Jim
Jim Ross, yeah. Shout out to all of our friends across the world.
Yes, and please join us anytime.
Exactly.
Or, our specific time that we set. But no, we really would love more people to do these because I think they're a lot of fun, and it's always great to see everybody and obviously talk about such a combined passion. But yeah, it's just good to do something fun in 2020. So yeah, it's October. Awesome. And we were just talking about it, but we are hoping to do a horror kind of, was that a spoil? I don't know, maybe that'll lure people
well, it's I'll just say it is October, so our next one we'll be doing might be very appropriately themed for the month.
Yes.
That's all we'll say.
That's a great mysterious way to say it. I love it. All right, so let's get this party started. So I had a lot of movies in mind, and there's some that actually have like the same director that had a few of each. So I just chose a few, and we can go around and say, I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to spit out plenty more. But first of all, the first one I have is Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas. Just think it's one of the best movies ever made in a way, my opinion. So it's like immediately on my radar, and obviously the fact that it's based on a true story with Henry Hill and such amazing performances, and just everything about that movie works. I feel like that's why it's considered one of the best, considered one of my favorites. And he is a director that does have several other true story ones that I might throw out there at some point. But moving on to David Fincher's The Social Network.
Yeah.
Another terrific film, terrific performances, score, just everything. And obviously, with any of these movies, things are all very loosely based. But I think Jesse Eisenberg nailed that performance pretty well, and this obviously the script, Rice Morgan's amazing. So props to that film. And the third one, I was really debating what my third one would be for this first production, but I wanted to go with Snowtown. I guess it's also the Snowtown Murders, I guess, depending on where you're looking. But it's a Justin Kurzel film, and it's based on these real Australian murders that happen. And so, you know, being a true crime person, that's a film that's, I think it's more closely captured. Obviously, I don't know all the specifics, but it's something that I felt was less loose, let's say that. And it's also just a very uncomfortable and disturbing film, if you're up for that. But it's just one that sticks with you. So I want to throw that out there. So yeah, all my picks are really happy ones, apparently. This is just my first round. So yeah, I don't like to spend too much time, you know, going on and on, but those are all movies that you should watch. And Jake Trovia.
Jake Tropila's Trove of Trivia. I'm gonna kind of preamble for a bit. I was not the biggest fan of this topic because it was very hard for me to find a true story film that I liked, let alone loved. I think part of the problem is that they can go two ways. They can be loosely based, like Emily teased earlier, and I think that is the better result if it does its own thing, or they can be very fact-driven. Usually these are your biopics or your prestige dramas that are just going for Oscar nominations, and they try to inspire because they were in fact true stories of these people that had a struggle and prevailed. But when I really thought about it, I landed on a film that both does its own thing and also like adheres strictly to the research of the source material. And it's also a Fincher film. It's Zodiac.
Yeah.
The first hour of that movie, I can't get enough of, because it's just, even though it's like all the details laid out, there's, you know, date and timestamps, locations, you know, everybody is identified by name as people working on the case, and all the basically everything is identified to a T, like, and how the murders took place and who was a witness, how the bodies were left behind. There's all these details that like Fincher executes perfectly. And then we go into this story of Robert Graysmith, and then that's where Fincher kind of eases up on the specificity of the narrative and kind of lets it be this untangling of a man's psyche, as he's driven by the obsession of solving this case, which is still to this day never been solved. But I think, you know, just the mix of the two, where, you know, an artist doing their own thing and the fidelity to the source material, because it's also based on Graysmith's book. I think Zodiac is just a fantastic entry. And I'm only I have a few others listed, but the only other film I want to say, which throws historical accuracy out the window, and I'm going to say this kind of quietly out of earshot of other people in my house who don't like this movie, but I'm a big fan of Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette. I don't think, I think that movie I think that's her best film. It's my favorite film of hers, at least. I think if you're going to make a movie about a teenager who ruled a country, that's the way to do it. You put pop music in it, you make it fun. And yeah, it's just a beautiful movie. And I'm not looking for any, you know, it's not the King's Speech. I'm not looking for details of this one ruler's life laid out on screen, just told with fanciful costume design and beautiful production design. You know, I want a party. So, you know, I really dig the hell out of Marie Antoinette. I think just going in the complete opposite direction of being faithful to the source material is how you should do it. But yeah, let's hear from somebody else. Emily, what do you got for us? Or Bailey? I'll let you guys decide who wants to go first.
You can go first.
All right.
Okay. Much like Jake's was saying with Zodiac, probably the first one I'm going to pick up is also doing the thing where part of it is very true, because you have to have some basis in the truth, and you can't avoid the truth in this case because everyone knows it. And then there's this whole just made up other storyline going on. It's the most obvious one that is based on a true story. Unironically, I love Titanic. Not gonna lie. And look, it is one of those movies. Everyone knows that the boat's gonna sink. So how do you go about doing it? And how do you handle the fact that the story is not only so well known, but it's so well known because it is so on the nose. It is known because we built the biggest boat ever and said that it was unsinkable, and it immediately sank. Like, the theme there of man's folly and our own thinking way too highly of ourselves. You can't do that without being super obvious in the case of this story. So what does he pair it with? A super obvious melodramatic love story. So yeah, it's a big ball of cheese, but I love the big ball of cheese in that.
So do I.
It's a good cheese for sure.
Yeah, it's good cheese.
I don't know how
I
long
don't
I've
like
I love
I don't
Titanic.
like Titanic, but that was like one of my husband's favorite movies as a kid. Like, he was obsessed with like the whole thing with Titanic, and he has like a little figurine and stuff. But I was a part of a stage production of Titanic the musical in high school, and they took the story of it and made it about the actual people, and it was fascinating, and it's very, very good, and very good songs. I highly recommend. But yeah, like, something about watching kids drown as a kid I didn't like.
Well, you don't see them drown, but that's kind of the awful implication you have to make on your own. You walk out and you go, well,
filmmaking.
oh my God, those kids didn't make it out of there. Their mom
Not a happy movie.
lullabied them to sleep to their deaths.
No, I know. That part is like especially devastating. But no, I always love that movie. I think it's kind of a feat in filmmaking in a lot of ways too, with what they did to create that. And also, it doesn't hurt that Leo and Kate have amazing chemistry.
Yeah.
Even if it is, cheesy and melodramatic, it hits you. Like, I've seen that movie a lot. I loved it when it came out. I guess I was the right age for that movie at the time. And so even now when I watch it, there's some scenes at the end that still, they hit you.
Wasn't it like they rediscovered the Titanic only a few years before too? Like, I think that also added to like
Cameron's interest was because he was researching it, I think. And I know he's continued to do it even recently. I think like released some video of him in, I don't know what you call it, the things that go down. Look at
Cameron visits the Titanic every other weekend just to say hello and thank him for making a billionaire.
He's got that Avatar money.
When you've made both Titanic and Avatar.
Exactly.
He's just pushing back Avatar just so he can revisit Titanic.
Please keep doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know, at this point when Avatar finally comes out, like, it might be a whole new world. Maybe I'll want to run to the theater and see it.
Yeah.
Did you have any others, Emily? I didn't know.
That's the conspiracy.
Go ahead.
Oh no, just James Cameron made the pandemic so that we are itching to get back into theaters for Avatar.
I haven't heard that one among the 1,000 others I've heard.
Is there a correlation between 3D glasses giving you the vaccine? Because maybe that's
no, the glasses give you the 5G cancer? No,
What? I'm lost.
It's stupid.
Bailey, what are your choices?
Oh, I think Emily had another one.
You can go ahead. Sounds like we're going to go back around, so I'll leave some.
Well, yeah, like I like watching biopics and stuff, especially of like musicians. But I think the very first like based on a true story I ever saw was so great that when I found out the hard way that some of it wasn't true, I was devastated. But then it made me like be like, okay, so these are allowed to be not 100% true. Okay, now I can deal. But so this was a Luke Perry movie directed by the guy from Rocky. I'm wondering if you guys know it. Also Stephen Baldwin, 1994.
What was it called?
I haven't said it yet. I'm wondering if
okay.
you
No.
know.
No.
Okay, so the movie, okay, yay, my time to shine. So this is a movie called 8 Seconds, and it is about the life of a famous bull rider named Lane Frost. So I'm from the rodeo world, and Lane Frost is like, and he was a huge, huge, huge monument in the sport. And the movie is about his life. The first half of the movie is about like him becoming like this great bull rider and traveling around with his buddies. And then the second half is like his marriage and then how he eventually died. And it's a very, very good movie, at least as far as like rodeo movies go. But yeah, he basically like, he is everything to people in the rodeo community. So he died in a bull riding accident where his death was the direct cause for, what am I trying to say? His death changed the sport. Now everyone has to wear protective vests. There's like all this money and foundations going into helping bull riders who are injured during the sport. And it was like this big like black cloud over the community when he died, because he was like kind of like the first like good guy cowboy man. And like they talk about it that in the movie, all these archetypes of like cowboys and like the mythology and like the lore of like, no, we all have to be John Wayne, we need to be tough, we need to be not be nice to women or kids. And Lane Frost kind of changed that, because his friends would joke that he was like a politician. But the movie is extremely well done in that effect. But it's also like, it's a little hokey, especially if you don't know anything. No, it's hokey if you do know a bit about rodeo, because Renee Zellweger is in it as a buckle bunny. And it's like,
What is a buckle bunny?
A buckle bunny is a bull rider groupie for bull riders. And in the rodeo world, bull riders are like the rock star, because everyone thinks they're cool inside and outside the community. But they kind of have a reputation for being like really selfish, because they can come in and be drunk and hungover. They do their event and they go, whereas other people have horses to take care of and all this other thing that they have to be responsible for. So they're like the bad boys. And he really kind of changed that, and he made bull riders like heroes for young kids. And so Stephen Baldwin's in the movie, and he plays this guy Tuff Hedeman, who's very mean to Lane Frost. I got to meet him, and I asked him, did you really call him all these horrible things in this movie? But I asked him this as a little kid, and he's like, ha ha ha, no. And that crushed me. Like, what? But the movie said. But it's worth watching. It's a really good insight into how like the rodeo world works and relationships and kind of image, and how like these athletes are literally turned into superstars, and yet most of them can't pay their bills or get up in the morning. And yeah, and it's like in my family and my community, it's a big deal. Like I have friends who are named after him. I have friends who who used to compete with him. Like it's a very, very, very interesting look into that kind of world. And then I guess the second one is Miyazaki's The Wind Rises.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had to drive like an hour to see that in theaters, and it was completely worth it. It's very beautiful. I really like how romantic it is, because his movies don't really have a lot of that. And I think it's really interesting how like at the time there were kind of articles like saying how the movie is like anti-feminist, and how Miyazaki has betrayed all of his female protagonists, because the love interest is like has tuberculosis and doesn't do much. And it's like, well, she's based off a real person, kind of. So what are you going to do? But yeah, I think it's a really interesting way to look at that. Like someone who is famous for having female protagonists creating something that's based off of a true story, and like people trying to reconcile that in their heads. I think it's an interesting look at that. It also makes my husband cry, which is really sweet.
Good choices. Awesome.
Yeah,
Right
that's
on.
just the two.
All right. I feel like Jake has a thought. Did I just stop it?
Well, no, I was going to throw it back to you from the
Oh.
top, Kristy. Did you have any others you wanted to throw in?
Yeah, sure. I've got a lot. So another
Me
one.
too.
Are cool. So another one is Into the Wild by Sean Penn, directed by Sean Penn. It's a movie that I love. I read the story of Christopher McCandless. I'm sure everybody knows that story. Emile Hirsch plays him. But he's sorry, there's a phone going in the. Okay. Anyway, sorry about that. Stupid. Don't you know I'm broadcasting? So anyway, yeah, train of thought just went. Based on true story. A lot of things are obviously fictionalized and exaggerated and whatnot, but obviously he was a young, early 20-year-old, graduated college, decided to just like get rid of money, possessions, and just live in the wild kind of. And he ends up going to Alaska, and it's I don't know, it's just I think it's a really terrific film. It's just one I love, even if there is a lot of things that, there's also, it's one of those stories that there's a lot of time of him alone and nobody really knows what happens. So you kind of have to fill in those blanks. And just to kind of say why not, I'll talk about a movie that kind of traumatized me as a kid, but I also has like a little soft spot is the movie Alive. It's a Frank Marshall film. It's based on the true story of it's a team of, I'm trying to think of what sports player. They're rugby, yes, rugby. And their plane goes down in the Andes Mountains. Do you know the movie, Emily? Because you're laughing.
Yeah, I'm
I don't
laughing
know
that you
this
saw that as
movie.
a kid.
What'd you say?
I'm laughing that you saw that as a kid. I don't
Oh,
think I've
yeah.
ever seen the movie, but I know the story just because you mentioned being into true crime. I'm into kind of true crime and all those grisly stories as well, so I know the story very well.
Yeah, I know.
I'm enthralled. I don't know this.
I'm picking all these joyful things tonight, but yeah. So it's rough times when they crash the plane. It's just a bunch of like teenagers, and the things they're forced to do to survive are not pretty. But it does. It has a semblance of a happy ending, I suppose. But it's I don't know. I think it's a good movie, and I think it's just one of those stories that's kind of like, the reason I highlight it is because the fact that this really happened and that people were able to survive this. Obviously, I'm not gonna like throw all the reasons. All right, they have to eat people, but let's just get it out. Rip the Band-Aid. Dead people, of course, but
I know what cannibals are. I've
Okay,
seen them on
good.
television.
but no, they're dead, and there's not many options. But the fact that this actually happened and people actually survived this, and it's just one of those movies that even though there's some disturbing shit, it's also kind of inspiring, but also just interesting. I'm a weirdo. I don't know.
I've never heard of this. I'm gonna definitely watch it.
And I watched it way too young. I watched everything way too young.
Same.
Oh yeah.
Is that the story where they thought one of them was dead, so they kind of moved his body outside, but then they found out it was just like his brain was swelling, and somehow the cold brought his brain back down, and he like got back up and was fine? Is that one, or is that a different story?
I think that's a different story.
It's a different
Yeah.
story. Well, either way, fun fact.
Ethan Hawke's in that, by the way.
Under the cold, that can possibly help if your brain is swelling.
It's a good thing
Good
to
to
know.
know.
Keep that in mind going into the if you have going into the winter, just in case. But yeah, also young Ethan Hawke is like one of the main characters in that movie too. So it's I'm a Hawke fan, so
Right on.
yeah, groovy.
Yeah, very groovy. Not quite sure where I would want to go next on my list. Two I'll throw out. I don't think they're not necessarily the best true story movies ever. But again, they take that kind of loose spin on it, and they're both very theatrical in their presentation of criminals. One of them is Chopper, by Andrew Dominic. It's about Australian criminal Mark Chopper Reed. He's played by Eric Bana. And the other one is Bronson by Nicholas Winding Refn.
I love Bronson.
Played by Tom Hardy. Yeah. Again, it's not really it's just very loose details about these guys' lives that have been just basically put into this like florid theatrical story where like they basically both address the cameras in their own films, and they see themselves as being like the height of a celebrity when they're in prison. But yeah, they're both I enjoy them both, and they both have very strong central performances. Like Tom Hardy is genuinely scary as Bronson. And the guy who Eric Bana played, Chopper, he's pretty nutso as well. Like he cut his own ears off so that like he could be transported to another part of the prison. So yeah, crazy times. And then one I'll also throw out is from the silent film era. This is a very famous story, but I'm gonna go with Dreyer's The Passion of Joan of Arc. Which is a silent film about her trial and then up through her death. And it's just an incredible expressionistic masterpiece. And the woman who plays Joan of Arc, Maria Falconetti, it just gives one of the most heartbreaking performances I've seen in anything ever. So yeah, those are two opposite sides of the true story spectrum, but both sets I really like.
Awesome.
Yeah, that Joan of Arc one's on my watch list.
Yeah, it'll like knock your socks off, and you'll just it's great.
And you'll be sockless.
And then you'll be sockless, and your feet will be cold.
Knock them clear off across the room.
But if your feet get really cold and then you go into warmer area, you'll be okay. Is that what it was?
Well, that's why I have my.
That's exactly how that famous
onesie.
expression goes. Yeah. Oh, that too.
There are two recent like biopics that came out, and like one of them was very huge and it shouldn't have been, and the other one was kind of huge and should have been. But I think it's interesting comparing Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man to each other. I hated Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, I think because like I really love Queen, and I got really annoyed with a lot of the changes, and knowing what the movie could have been. And then watching Rocket Man, which was very like fantastical. I think like I'd never really quite seen a biopic quite like it. I think it was very, very, very well done. And it makes me like a bit upset that Bohemian Rhapsody like blew up the way it did, and it kind of overshadowed Rocket Man in a way. But like, how do you say the guy's name? Taron Egerton? Edgerton?
Edgerton is how I've always said it, but
okay, I have no idea, but he's fantastic in it, like so good, and he does his own singing, and it's just like I would say like obviously Rami does a good job as Freddie, but it makes me sad that like Rocket Man didn't get as much recognition as it should have. I feel like it's right up there with like Walk the Line as like a music biopic, because Walk the Line is unbelievably good. Like Joaquin Phoenix, I would have been okay if that had stayed his like Oscar win. Like it's interesting looking at like music biopics, because so many of them are so formulaic and bad.
Yeah, that's the trouble you run into with a lot of these. And if I could speak on Bohemian and Rocket Man for a bit, I think part of why one fails in areas that the other succeeds is that Elton John was very much alive and participating with the production of of Rocket Man. And I think Taron even had his blessing, and he like praised his performance. But with Bohemian, I mean, there's the problem with the director and getting fired, and so a lot of the movie is just kind of cobbled together, and it has some of the worst editing I've ever seen. But two of the producers are Brian May and the drummer from Queen, and I'm sure they got all their words in to make sure that their characters get enough screen time, which who cares about them, and B, that they don't look bad and make Freddie look like an asshole. So yeah, it's it's clashing artistic instincts, I guess.
It was, they just really wanted to hone in, like, no, this is a Queen movie, but people want a Freddie Mercury movie. And like, didn't they fully wanted like the second half to be the band going on without him. Like, no. I'm glad that got vetoed.
There's a Morrissey biopic from a few years ago. I think it's called This Is England. And it's like his whole life up until the last scene of the movie is him meeting Johnny Marr. So there's not a single Smith song is even like heard on screen. So it's a strange decision, but
that's something.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you go for the music, you're going to be supremely disappointed.
A really, really good, based on a true story music biopic is Coal Miner's Daughter with Sissy Spacek and Tommy Lee Jones before he started becoming a tree. Like, I can't believe he actually looks kind of young, but he still looks old. Like,
poor Tommy.
We love him. Love him, love him.
You look like a tree, but we love you.
That's part of his charm.
I'd like to know when this tree metamorphosis started.
Yeah, when did this start?
I would say, like, well, that was the 70s. I'd say 80s.
Wow.
Like, in Coal Miner's Daughter, he has one line of wrinkles on his forehead.
I see.
And then they just quadrupled as the years went by. But no, the whole story of like, oh my God, Loretta Lynn is very interesting because she got married to a 21-year-old when she was 13, and like their marriage was so crazy. And then, you know, he died and she was so heartbroken. It's like classic country music, like melodramatic lore. It's very, very well done. And she does her own singing in that too, and is amazing. Yeah, I recommend that movie to everybody.
Right on.
Emily, you had another, right?
Yeah, I have a couple more. I'll start with a really recent one that I really, really like. I guess the biopic genre, but it approaches it very differently as 20th Century Women, which that's a Mike Mills movie. It's vaguely about his childhood and particularly about his relationship to his mother. I think what's really interesting about this movie is that when people try to make movies about their parents, I think it's really hard for people to sort of see their parent outside of their relationship to their parent.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie, it tells it through a series of, the movie is basically a series of vignettes, and you sort of get this like vaguely impressionistic idea of what his mother might have been like and what her aspirations might have been and what she gave up to raise him. And it includes, you know, other people that came in and out of their lives, but it really is primarily, I think you get the feel of sort of him realizing everything his mother did for him and everything that his mother really was and might have been without him. And I think it's a very generous film in a lot of ways towards his mother and towards parents in general that I think is really unique in that approach. And the other one I'll throw out is Dog Day Afternoon, based on a true bank robbery.
Yes, that was on my list.
Yeah, I think that movie, I mean, it is super thrilling, it is very sweaty, but it also has this thread of dark humor that I love in it. So I'll throw that one out as well.
Nice.
Dog Day Afternoon is so good.
It really is.
I think I watched that when I was like 12. That was the last time I watched it. I need to watch it again.
I think I watched that when I was young too.
Yeah, like, and then I'm so glad you said 20th Century Woman. I didn't realize that was like based off of like his life. That makes it even better. That's one of the best movies I've seen in the last like 5 years, 10 years. It's so good. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those ones I was kind of referencing. I was like, it's really pushing on the based on a true story thing. It's more an idea of what I think his mother was. And his film he did before, Beginners, is kind of similarly vaguely based off his relationship with his father.
Yeah, another great film.
Have you seen the Dog Day Afternoon documentary, The Dog? which is about the guy who committed the robbery. It's pretty entertaining.
No, I need to.
Yeah, the dog. Check it out. He basically tried to cash in on the fame of being the basis for the true story after the film came out, and it didn't really go that well for him, so to speak. But
Well, I mean, I assume he robbed a bank to get money, so however he can get money, he'll go for it.
yeah, he definitely did. Sorry, Kristy, did you have one that you were about to?
I was just gonna say, Jake took my Zodiac, which we figured out right before, so I'm glad that we planned around that. But for me, like, some of the last ones I added are ones that I like, not necessarily love, and a lot of these are just ones that should be appreciated. But Scorsese's done a lot of movies that are based on true stories, like Raging Bull and Aviator are both terrific films.
Wolf of Wall Street?
Well, and Wolf, yes, I hadn't gotten to that yet, Jake. Damn it.
Sorry, have a cat.
Guys, this isn't blind spots.
Sorry, I know we have this rapport. I can't help it.
We
no,
famously
but yeah.
fight all the time on that show.
Yeah, totally what we do. Just every episode. And I love that the cats come into view.
Yeah, he's being very handsy.
Is that
pushing my...
Mal?
Yeah, this is Malcolm.
Yes.
Where's my cat?
I can recognize the newbie. Yeah, so for different reasons, like Raging Bull, Aviator, Wolf of Wall Street are all terrific films. I mean, you could even say like Gangs in New York is like based on a true-ish.
Silence too, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I just read the book for it for a book club, and it's fictional, but it's kind of based off of an actual person that Liam Neeson played, but the actual Andrew Garfield priest is fictional.
Yeah.
But
I think Father Ferreira was
Ferreira. Yes.
Ferreira, yeah.
Yeah. The book is very, very good. I recommend that. And I think Silence is one of my favorite Scorsese movies too.
Interesting.
It's so good. And I just had to we rewatched it for the book club to compare, and I was fully like, this is much better as a movie.
Wow. That hardly ever happens.
Yeah, and I think that's Scorsese's he lives his life as a filmmaker, and I think that's the best example comparing those two mediums. Yes. Silence is very good.
Yeah, and those are all very, very different. And like Gangs in New York is kind of like a historical event in a sense that's real, but like these characters that aren't. And obviously, like that movie's amazing because of the characters, but and performances. But I love The Aviator. Another Leo. Why not? But Howard Hughes is his performance in that is pretty spectacular to me. And obviously Raging Bull is also. And actually, there's a lot of crime ones that I think about, because I just realized, like, this isn't Scorsese, but Donnie Brasco is also a really good movie.
Who directed Donnie Brasco?
Mike Newell. Mike Newell.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, even The Irishman.
I know. That's another one. I actually was just going to say, wait, there is another one. I know there is. There might even be like 4 more. I don't know.
I've never seen it, but Serpico's also, that was a real guy too, right?
Yes. Serpico is really good. I really loved The Irishman. I was surprised how much hate it got. But
did it get a lot of hate? Did it?
Did it? Really?
I saw a lot of hate because it's like, oh, old white man gets to do whatever he wants with this amount of time. But also, Robert De Niro's curb stomping that guy looked terrible. That knocks like half a star off of it, but it is a very, very good.
But it's a 9 out of 10 otherwise, right?
Yeah.
If not for that curb stomp.
Ooh.
I mean, that is
bad physical acting.
It is a bad curb stomp. I will say that. But everything else about that movie I love.
Yeah, it's very good, and it takes that whole thing of like a biopic and making it into like cinema, because I mean, is that really how he died? Interesting.
Anyone else have one they want to throw out?
I got a fun one. Another fun one. I kind of alluded to the music of it earlier, but I really like English new wave music, rock music from the 80s. And 24 Hour Party People is a really fun movie where Steve Coogan plays Tony Curtis, or a heightened version of Tony Curtis, and he kind of like walks us through the Manchester music scene of the 80s as we go from like Joy Division to New Order to the Happy Mondays, and he just kind of like spends time with these bands who are like, obviously playing hyper drugged out versions of their real selves, and like even real people from the point in time kind of walk into the movie and they'll address the camera and say, okay, this is what really happened. And yeah, that's just a lot of fun, and I love the music from that era. So I think that's a good movie. 24 Hour Party People. My cat
I
just
have not
jumped off
seen
the
that,
table.
but that's going on my watch list.
Yeah, check it out.
A very recent based on true story movie that came out was Roma, because it was based on how do you say his Cuarón?
Alfonso Cuarón.
Cuarón, okay. So yeah, because it's based off of his family's actual like maid.
Yeah.
And like
Nanny,
the struggle she went through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I was completely blown away by that movie. That was like the big movie of that year for me, because it's so beautiful, and it's like a love letter to this woman in his life who like was his servant. It's so interesting for him to like look back and be like, this is who I want to make my next film about. And then he made himself like the little bratty kid. Gotta love honesty. There was another movie. Almost Famous is like basically about him, right?
It's very loosely on Cameron Crowe's. Yeah. But it's a great film. Always worthy of talking.
Oh yeah, like I think it's interesting, kind of looking back at like the discourse of how he lost his virginity, and to him it's like it's very of the time of like, oh, of course, like this teenage boy is gonna be like gonna love getting rounded up by these groupies, these band-aids. But looking back, it's kind of like, oh, maybe that wasn't that great to do. But then again, all of the groupies back then were underage, so
it worked out.
This say? Yeah, like it's very gray area. It's interesting to like kind of look back on that.
It's interesting. There's a couple, and I'm sorry if I'm like hogging things. Usually I try to be quick with my answers at least. But that like were very important when I was growing up, like This Boy's Life, which maybe he featured on a future Blind Spot. Another Leo and De Niro, since we've talked a lot about him. It's a really terrific film, but it's based on the real characters. I think it's a memoir or based loosely on his life, and it's really good. And also Girl Interrupted. Susanna Kaysen actually wrote that memoir, so it's based on her personal experiences. And even though there's some things about the movie that I pick apart at the time when it came out, I really enjoyed it, which makes me really excited, by the way, to see the Bell Jar when that finally gets made. I don't know if anyone read, that was always like a book that I adored, Sylvia Plath, which is loosely based on like her personal experiences. And I feel like it was going to be directed by, or like Kirsten Dunst had bought the rights, or like, I don't know if anyone knows. That makes me look it up, but just it made me think of it. But that'll be an interesting future based on true kind of. It's like it's a fictional novel, but it is based on her personal experiences.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, if you want a film that's based off somebody's personal experiences, that's like the opposite of 20th century women, might I recommend Gary Oldman's Nil by Mouth, which is essentially a film about his abusive alcoholic father, and played by Ray Winstone in the movie. And it's kind of, it's very much just a plotless, strand of scenes with this family that's slowly crumbling because of the father's issues, but it's really good. Nil by Mouth, check it out. The only film that Gary Oldman has directed to this day.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I did look it up, and that would be Kirsten Dunst's directorial debut. With Fanning as the lead character, so that'll be
Female actresses directing movies. You love to see it.
I wrote it with a woman too, so. Boom.
A really great like movie that I grew up with was like Tombstone with Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer. And it's interesting because it's basically like it's like just a snapshot of like a few years of Wyatt Earp's life. And it came out around the same time as the movie Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner. And that's like his entire life. So those got like compared a lot, like obviously. But it seems like Tombstone kind of made it out as like the more renowned movie. But it holds up very, very well. That was a big movie I grew up on. I love that movie.
Neil Huckleberry.
Yeah. It's funny. My little brother, his name is Wyatt, and everyone thinks he was named after Wyatt Earp because that movie came out right when he was born. But he was actually named after a character played by George Strait in the movie Pure Country.
I used to love that movie Pure Country when I was a kid, which is blame entirely on my father. But because I'm not a country music person. But I feel like there's a lot of shows too that have been based on true. I feel like that could like spawn a whole, probably longer than we want to conversation. But I think there's quite a few of those as well.
Yeah.
Interesting, or miniseries.
The only one I can like think of is Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
what are some other ones?
I love Mindhunter, the show on Netflix.
I don't know Mindhunter. What's Mindhunter?
What? Yeah, it follows. I mean, it's basically the beginning of the FBI, like, and as far as like becoming, how I phrase this, like the very beginning of like understanding serial killers before they even had the name serial killers, and it's like their research and kind of they talk to them and try to get to understand them and profiling. So it's really early in like FBI profiling. So it's really fascinating, and it is based on like novel by one of the real people that did it, and some of their experiences are obviously true, obviously some not. But in the last one, they even had an interview with Charles Manson on it, which was pretty awesome episode. But yeah, I would totally watch that. I would check that out. It's a good show. And it's produced by
I'll put that on my list.
He directed some of the first season, I believe.
That sounds awesome.
It is.
Yeah, you can go on a whole side tangent on all of the true crime shows that have been based off of that thing. Because, like, I remember a few years ago, everyone was super confused when the Emmys rolled around and The Act was nominated because, no one watched it.
So good.
Oh, that was great. I was like, yeah. It's like, particularly, I mean, the two leads were nominated in that, and they make that show. That's a case of a true story. Is it Gypsy Rose is her name?
Yes,
Gypsy Rose by proxy, if you know what that is. So it's messed up.
Yeah,
Gypsy Rose is messed up.
Yeah, that story in itself is messed up, and that show did a terrific job. Like, I'm glad when you started saying that, I was like, she's gonna say The Act. I know it.
Yeah.
Because that's one that I felt like kind of just got swept under. Like, a lot of people didn't watch it, but it's really worth watching.
Yeah.
And Patricia Arquette's amazing.
Yeah. And then I know I've never cared for Patricia Arquette before until that show. It's the only thing I've really liked her in, to be honest. Kind of similarly, the same thing happened to Unbelievable with Netflix too. I thought that was a really strong show. It was a little shaky at times, but you got Toni Collette anchoring it and Merritt Weaver. So there were moments in that show that are just great, and I'm surprised they got incredibly overlooked and the show just kind of got swept under the rug.
Yeah, that's another great one as well. And speaking of Patricia Arquette, Escape at Dannemora. If anyone saw that, Ben Stiller directed it. It's actually really good, and Paul Dano's in it. But that's based on, it's not even that long ago now, I don't think, but the two convicts that escaped from the New York prison, and it follows like what happens to them. And that's a really good one as well. Another kind of true crime.
Have you guys seen Masters of Sex?
I saw the first few seasons, yeah.
Yeah, I really loved that show, and it was very interesting because it did follow very closely to like their actual lives. But I think it was canceled before they got married in real life, before they could get to that, because they got married decades after they started having sex for research. But yeah, that was a very, very good show. I highly recommend.
Right on.
I know, that's one I picked up and started watching, and then I fell behind and never finished it, and I really should go back and finish it.
I was really sad when it was canceled because it's a very interesting and intriguing story, and all of it happened for real, so cool, and the performances are incredible, absolutely incredible.
Right on. Well,
Yeah.
that was a great discussion, everybody.
Yeah.
Good choices. You got me. I always write down a list of things to check out. This series is going to keep me back several years, but I think we're all ready to move on to the trivia portion of our show tonight. That's all right. So I think everybody's all been here several times, but I will read the rules for any new viewers. Trivia. I will ask 10 film and TV related questions to the group. The first person to say the correct answer will earn a point. The player with the most points at the end of the game wins. Some questions will be worth more than 1 point. Are there any, in the event that there's a tiebreaker will become available. Are there any questions? All set? All right, here we go. All right, so question number 1. And this one's worth 2 points right out the gate. So I need the first and last names. What are the full names of Wendy's brothers in Peter Pan?
John and Michael.
And
Darling.
how does that work? Should I split it? Is that cool?
What?
So you said John and Michael, which is correct, and then Kristy got the last name for the other point, Darling.
Oh,
Yeah.
You wanted last name too. Okay.
Yeah, first and last name. It's okay.
Gotta listen to the question in full, Bailey.
Exactly. Yes.
My brain didn't transmit it right.
Hey, this isn't your first rodeo.
Hey.
Call back to
Rodeo girl.
Howdy, partner.
Yeah. One of my favorite tweets ever is just some guy saying, it's in parentheses, guy at his first rodeo, and the caption is, "What the fuck is going on?"
This trivia is rank.
Yeah. All right. Question number 2. Which Friends character had a haircut named after them?
Oh, Rachel.
Rachel.
Correct.
Duh.
The Rachel. All
Everyone
right.
wanted
My
that.
mom had the Rachel.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Question number 3. Which Coen Brothers film purports to be based on a true story?
Fargo.
Fargo.
So close, but yeah, Kristy got it again. Fargo. Kristy, you're running away with this. All right.
Yeah.
Question number 4. The lead characters in Rob Zombie's Devil's Rejects trilogy share their names with what?
The Firefly family of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No. Is there a Firefly family in that Chainsaw?
I think that's what their family name is called.
Well, it is the Firefly family. What is the original Firefly family name from?
Ooh. If it's not Texas, then I don't know.
It's not Texas.
Think
It ain't Texas. I don't know it.
think classic and think like genre that's the polar opposite of horror.
Disney.
And think brothers.
Marx Brothers?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
They're all yes. They're all named after Marx Brothers characters in the Devil's Rejects. So
There's a baby Marx brother?
no, well, not baby, but like Rufus Firefly and Otis Driftwood. Those are all Groucho names.
Okay. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
That was pure luck.
All right.
I like to learn new things.
Exactly. Yeah. So, question number 5. What is the name of Ripley's spaceship in Alien?
Oh, it's the Nostromo.
I think Emily got it by a hair. Nostromo, correct. Technically, it's the USCSS Nostromo, but, I'm not going to be a stickler.
I don't know.
Nostromo. Congratulations. Good job, Emily. All right. Question number 6. Which film is a real-life dramatization of the Battle of Thermopylae?
300.
Correct.
Ooh.
was-
Thermopylae.
History Channel as a child. That's the only reason I know that.
Correct. Very good job. I wanted the wording of that one too. You know, because you don't think.
Were you guys on
dramatization.
MySpace? Like
I
during
was.
that time?
I was
Do
gonna
you
say,
remember?
once upon a time. Not anymore.
Well,
Is
do
that
you
even-
remember when like you could only have like 8 pictures on your profile,
Top 8.
and
Yeah.
then to promote 300, they're like, because of this movie, you get 300 photos to your MySpace, and it was a game changer.
I only had 7 friends, so it didn't matter for me.
And one of them was, what was it, Tom? No.
One of them
what
was Tom.
Still
Yeah.
Tom.
No, this is for photos. Like you could add more photos to it.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't remember seeing that many options, but yeah. Question number 6. This one's worth 3 points. Name the 3 Jim Carrey films released in 1994.
Mask,
Liar,
Dumb and
Mask.
Dumber, and Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Yeah.
Mask.
Bailey Joe got all 3. Kristy, I think you said Liar Liar.
Yeah.
That is incorrect. Yeah, I think Kristy got it. Yeah, Kristy, you nailed it. No,
Bailey.
sorry, Bailey Joe nailed all 3. Congratulations, 1. Wow. Bailey Joe, you're running away with this. You have 5 points. Kristy, you have 3 points. But Emily, you have 2 points. There's still several questions left, guys. It's anybody's game. I have faith in all of you. All right. Question number 8. According to John Travolta, what is Idina Menzel's real name?
Azim. Wait.
Adele
Oh my God,
Dazeem.
Adele Dazeem.
Correct, Emily.
Oh my God, I've said it so many times, like making fun of him, that I can't say it right when it comes down to it.
The
God damn.
wickedly talented Adele Dazeem.
No, it's wickedly talented.
cursed.
One and only.
I can't say that. It's cursed shit.
Does anybody
Yeah.
know the name she gave him the next year?
Oh, Yeah, that-
Danny
Not,
Zuko.
not for any points, but she calls him Glom Gazimbo.
yeah, it didn't really work.
Yeah, you know, it's funny when it's not scripted.
Sometimes I watch the clip of that just for a nice, just like a feel good moment.
What's
Which is
worse is the way he was like touching her face. That was worse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when they came out together, and she said yeah, and he's like just doing that, yeah.
But the fact that he like works it up so much with the wickedly talented one and all, and then says it.
Adele Dazeem. Oh, good times.
My favorite drag queen.
All right. Question number 9. When taken into consideration this film's budget and runtime, what is the most expensive movie produced on a per minute basis? Meaning, if you take its budget and you divide it by the runtime, it's got the highest millions of dollars per minute spent making a movie.
Endgame.
Name that movie. It is not
Does
Endgame.
it have to be feature length?
Well, I mean, it is over. Yes, it is over feature length. So Captain EO does not count in this regard. But that's a good question, though.
Titanic.
5 Hertz. Oh.
What? It's not Titanic. What were you saying, Kristy?
Oh, I said like a pirates, one of the pirates.
Okay, which one?
Oh.
Dead Man.
Who can give me the
At
subtitle?
World's End.
It's not World's End.
What's the third one called?
Dead Man's Chest. What are all of them? Let's just start naming
Not
all
Dead
of them.
Man's
We'll get
Chest.
them eventually.
Dead Men Tell No Tales.
It's not. No. Oh,
Is that one of them?
you guys are all.
Oh, Stranger Tides.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is Stranger Tides.
We'd get there
That is
someday.
the 5th one.
It's the 4th.
Jeez.
But
I was thinking that was not the 4th. That's how
The
many there are. Is too many.
Are there
The-
5? How many are there?
there is
Well, wasn't
5.
there one where Will and Elizabeth they have a kid?
Yeah, that's the end of the 3rd one. So there's Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Then there's Dead Man's Chest. Then there's At World's End, and that was the trilogy. And then 4 years later, they just came back and did On Stranger Tides, which is the most expensive per minute film ever made. And then a few years ago, there was one with Javier Bardem, and that one was Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what I was thinking.
And I think Kira and Will return for that one. I didn't.
They do, or at least Will does. I think he
Yeah.
Yeah.
Orlando Bloom needed money. I didn't see it. I don't know.
I think that was what it was.
Those Hobbit movies didn't pay him enough.
Until another set of somehow a Tolkien, something we haven't seen before on
Yeah.
Earth. Then
He's got to adapt the Silmarillion and give Legolas a role. But all right, here we go. Question number 10. and I wrote these before we had our discussion, always the disclaimer I throw out, but how many episodes of Mindhunter were actually directed by David Fincher?
2. I'm gonna guess 2.
It's not 2, it's not 1.
3.
Kristy, I think you're mute. I can't hear you. Can anybody hear Kristy?
No,
No, we can't hear Kristy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, there you go.
barely.
You can hold up fingers if you don't know.
Oh, I was counting. I know he did the premiere. I think he did like 3 or 4. He did the premiere, I think both seasons, and maybe the finales both seasons.
It is not 4 or 3.
5.
It's not 5.
Wow.
6.
That's my
Not
original
6.
second when I
8.
said 7.
Wait, you said 7?
Yeah, I did. That was my first
Oh,
answer.
I didn't. Oh, I'm sorry.
But you
that is
didn't hear
correct.
Me, apparently.
We didn't hear the 7. It is 7.
That's weird.
He directed 7, and then he directed 7.
It just felt
Mindhunter.
right. Now I know why.
All
But I was
right.
the only one who'd watched this show, right? You guys are just all like throwing numbers out.
I didn't say. Oh, I didn't mention anything about Mindhunter because I didn't. It was a trivia question, so I have not seen it though. But I think that's one I have written down to watch. But this is our closest game yet. Kristy and Bailey Joe 5 points each. Emily 4 points. Fantastic job. But we have a tie, so this is going to go to Kristy and Bailey Joe. The tiebreaker question is, and it's whoever can give just the most or all of the answer first is correct. The question is, name the 3 films James Dean starred in.
Rebel Without a Cause.
Okay,
That's all I know.
that's the gimme.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know his movies.
Emily, do you know the answer?
Um.
No, East of Eden. Eden.
East of Eden is another
I
one.
was gonna say, can you hear me?
Yes.
I was getting flashbacks again. Yeah, Emily, do you know the third one? Because I don't.
Nope.
It's a film called Giant.
I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, me
Maybe
neither.
because
It's
the
big
opposite.
something. It's something like that.
Yeah,
Or
he
you would
was.
have been like Andre the.
Or My Giant with Billy Crystal.
The Iron. Da-da-da.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, great job. Congratulations. I'm not sure who held the championship belt last, but Kristy, you.
Bailey, I think.
Bailey, Kristy, I think you wrested it out of her arms. You are now
Wrested
the champion. But no, that was a very fun, competitive game. You all did really well.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job, everyone. So yeah.
Here, you can have this is it. My Music by John Carpenter hat.
Ooh,
Don't play with me like that. I want it. It's fine.
it's a good hat. It's a good hat.
It is a good hat. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that we all were right in that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Emily,
It was
great
great,
job on
great
the
to be
300 question. That was stellar.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
It was another instance of I don't know that because of the movie. Although I have seen the movie, haven't I? I just am a history.
Haven't I? Haven't I?
I think in a way we've all seen 300.
That was when Gerard Butler was going to be a big thing.
Yeah, and then you just made all those stupid rom-coms.
Hey man, Geostorm is it.
I have
He's
not.
still around making a ton of movies, so I
He
don't.
still is, but I mean,
He's-
like, when
I
300
do
came
like.
out,
Yeah,
I
there
thought he
was
would be bigger.
a promise that
was
wasn't really
Was that
kept.
after his Phantom of the Opera, or before?
Yes.
Way after, yeah.
After.
Way after. Okay.
That
Yeah,
was
no,
04.
Phantom of the Opera and what is that movie? It's something with letters. I can't think of the name of it.
P.S. I Love You.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's not what I mean. He's in that is a movie he's in, but
he
no,
did.
it's one
He
with
did leave letters behind in that movie, though.
no, with Emily Mortimer. It's kind of an indie film.
Hmm.
I don't know. And then he was
Like
in
he was still
Gamer.
trying to make good movies instead of
To
just
the
making
internet.
whatever action movie comes his way.
I don't. You know what? He is stoic in How to Train Your Dragon. He can do whatever he wants.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Oh, Dear
I do
Frankie.
like him
That's
in
what that
that.
movie's called.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dear Frankie. That was
Ooh.
one I saw him in earlier too. It's actually a good, cute one.
I would like to take the moment to say that Den of Thieves is great. Carry on.
Oh, I wasn't.
Boss-
No, I wasn't.
Fassbender is in
Gerard
3.
Butler.
What?
In a bad wig.
Yeah, Fassbender's in 300.
And
That's right. He plays Stelios.
man,
I remember that because he's got the line, "Our arrows will blot out the sun," and he goes, "And we shall fight in the shade."
I know,
Do
it's
you
got some
remember
iconic lines.
do you remember the G-rated like trailer? And it was like,
Yeah.
our
should.
bees will blot out the sun, then we will hug in the shade.
We'll hug him. The best is him swinging the toothbrush down, going,
Brush your teeth.
I missed out on these.
"Oh,
I'm gonna have to do some research.
I'll share it with the group."
I think it was like, not like, it was very early YouTube.
It was, yeah, one of the first, that was the peak of YouTube comedy, was that fake thing.
All right. Well,
brush your teeth.
I'm definitely gonna check those out. Thank you.
Yeah,
And it was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for
So much.
hanging out and chatting and trivia
Yeah.
it up.
Thanks, everybody. This was great. And thank you for tuning in on YouTube out there.
Yeah.
Leaving comments.
We love when anyone joins us and leaves their comments with their picks. And any support. It's always fantastic. And I'm sure we've missed ones, or maybe people have opinions on the ones we talked about. And please feel free to exercise that. And I hope everybody is safe and healthy and happy and doing well. And thank you, Jake, for sending that link. And yeah, just thank you again from Film Inquiry, and I hope everyone has a terrific morning, afternoon, day, evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. So yeah, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yeah, the Truman Show
And
sign
good luck.
off.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you.
Unpleasant dreams.
Bye, everybody.